Tales of Misfits. Welcome home, little rabbit. The sun didn't do anything to warm her body as she shivered in the frost that nipped at her. She huddled with Calcanus as he was the only one keeping her warm and covered. The chains pulled on them both as the night felt like they were slowing down. Juno's knee jerks from the forceful pull, making her drool while she chokes. She falls to her knees, which stops the knights that surrounded them. Get your beast whore in line, traitor. Darkoda rushes at Calcanus as Juno trembles from the cold. Calcanus felt pity for the rabbit's treatment, focusing on her well-being before he answered Darkoda. Come on, huddle by me. Calcanus helps the centelope up, wrapping his chains around hers so he can embrace her back, keeping her warm. The knights in the back clicked their tongues, having both Calcanus and Juno look behind them. Bastard had to block the view. Never knew that centelopes came with a human ass. The knight said as he looked down on the both of them, having Calcanus stare daggers. Juno didn't care about the sexual harassment, digging herself deeper into his body. Calcanus senses that she needs more heat, wrapping his hands around her snugly. What was that, knight? Did you just say blasphemy? Darkoda looms over the pair as he looks upon the perverted knight. NNO, sir. The knight answered as his fellow knights looked at him with eyes to kill. These beasts may have the same breasts as human women, the warmth of human women, the smell of human women, but they are nothing like us. They breed just so the other animals can get their fill, acting more as food than the rest. Darkoda said as he grabbed Juno by the chin, getting a scorn from the pair. He smiles, then flicks her face out of his hand, turning back to follow the gravel road. It's nothing new. Barbaric men always get lonely when left to themselves for long. Tales told farmers fucking their sheep. It's the same principle. Darkoda said on a high ground of superiority, making the centelope droop her ears. How could he see her as nothing more than a mere animal? Even the word sentient means something in the human dictionary. She had thoughts, dreams, and aspirations. No animal had that, unless, as far as she knew. You should know, right, Darkoda? Calcanus said as the lieutenant turned with a scowl. Some of his men chuckled at the jab as Darkoda looked behind the pair. He blew on his finger as a flick of fire stayed tempered over his finger. Juno looms with dread as she sees the man summon chantless magic. He flicks his finger so the ember can fly beside them, landing on the perverted knight. No, Lieutenant Darkoda. The perverted knight bursts into flames as Darkoda increases the temperature by clawing his fist. The both chose to avert their eyes as the knight engulfs in flame, screaming alive as he burns. While she burns, Darkoda shakes his armor loose, reaching through his free hand down as he pulls a large ring. He blows on it too, increasing the temperature until it glows red. He walks towards the pair, getting it close to branding Juno's stomach. How about it, Calcanus? Should I brand your beast lover with the mark of a traitor? Juno felt the heat from the ring, sweating as it could forever leave a scar. She was frightened by the man's crazy eyes, smiling as he was planning to char her stomach. Calcanus looks at Darkoda, spitting at his eye, making him explosive in temper. He brings the ring to Calcanus's face, letting the ring brand him as he screams from the pain. Even if the king shows mercy to you, you are no longer allowed to enter human territory like a beast, Darkoda said as he waited for the ring to cool on Calcanus's skin. Juno was face to face with the grinning demon, couldn't help but bring her head back and headbutt him. It was right on the nose, making him step back as his nose bled. His anger boiled, thinking only of killing the rabbit. Calcanus kicked her leg, having both of them land on the snow. "We are sorry, Lieutenant Darkoda. Please accept our groveling." Calcanus fed the man his pride, making him laugh in amusement. Juno blushed as they landed. They looked like they were in a scandalous position. Calcanus pulls her up with a tight tug, making her choke as they rise up. Juno looks at the mark on Calcanus's cheek, as if it were two lines in the form of a T. Did this mark truly mean that he was banished from entering human borders? "Move, you still have life to suffer," Darkoda said as he continued forward, having the group follow. Scene. The journey down the mountain wasn't getting any better, as the road felt larger than continents. Darkoda stops as he sees an old church, one made for the soothsayers long ago. It wasn't the building that was off. The sight of a wagon with sentience waiting down the road did. Juno raised her head with happiness as 5 figures stood by the horses. Julie licks her claws with anticipation as she leers at the group of human knights. Beside her was Goodboy, swirling his sword around while he readied his shield. Lynn stands in the middle, swirling her blades as she stands proud. Bulwag by her side, equipped with a large hammer supplied by the nice sisters. Ramai on the bow, readying her quiver as she feels her string. "Ah, more prey," Darkoda said as he readied his sword, the 8 remaining knights. He walked with confidence as he felt like the numbers were still favorable. "Do we have to, Lynn?" Ramai complains at the centelope, staring daggers at the hunter. "Do we have to, Chali?" Lynn asked the snarling Lyconian, as she was more furious with the horde of humans. "Don't know. Let's figure it out when we're killing everyone." Chali told her friends as she took a Lyconian stance, crouching her body at an angle, having her right hand in the snow while she displays her left at her enemies. They look like wet paper as they pose, making Darkoda laugh. "Am I supposed to be afraid of 4 little girls and a fat man?" Darkoda taunted as the 5 smiled. Moore and Sikalai hid behind the wagon, showing themselves for effect after the prey showed confidence. Darkoda's grin faded away as the towering orcs stood above their tallest members. Moore had an old orc favorite tree club, freshly pulled while he strips the branches as he strokes it once. Sikalai had the twin halberds, the same weight as the knights had, frightening them as he swirls them around. So what if the beast joins with monsters? "We still have mages in our ranks," Darkoda said as he needed to prove to himself that he was superior. The wagon started to move as a squad of 10 WOF members revealed themselves, lining up with bows at the ready. These bows were only given to their strongest allies, as the longbow had piercing power. They lined up, ready to pull on their bows to bring the fire. Darkoda snarls as his men are quickly outnumbered and outmatched as he signals for an attack. He shakes in fear as he hears the loud steps his men heard before. The knights watched in awe when Gardner revealed himself behind the church bell, walking towards them with an angry mug. "What do you say, brother?" Sickle yells at Gardner, who only grits his orcish teeth. He straightens his back as he charges his roar. Juno looks at Calcanus, nudging him with her head, getting his attention. She uses her ears to point at Darkoda's shins, giving a nod. Calcanus smiles with glee, a welcome sight from his stone demeanor when they meet. Gardner signals the battle, wailing like a mythical beast of nature. The duo hasten their steps as Juno hangs on Calcanus' arms and kicks Darkoda in the shins. Darkoda screams from the crack, as a half-centelope still has the power of a dwarf with a hammer. Darkoda falls to the ground, while Tarball pulls the sheet from the front of the wagon, while Demona lights a cannon. Calcanus pushes down Juno, as the fun was about to begin. Moore chucks his log with great strength, deleting a knight from his lower half. The blood splattered like a volcano. His organs acted like confetti. Sickle dashes quickly, closing distance way before the others. He brings his halberds to a jump swing, slamming on a knight, crushing his torso down to his legs. Demona clears the cannon's back, as the railing was meant to take the brunt. Tarball takes aim and climbs up the wagon, letting it ignite. It fires, turning a knight into paste. The WOF members and Ramai aim for the vitals, releasing a barrage of arrows, hitting 4 knights. They weren't dead, so the Misfits charged at them with their weapons. Chali removes one of their helmets as the arrows limited their movement, sinking her teeth into her neck. Goodboy lunged his blade right in the middle of the rings, impaling the knight's neck. Lin did the same as Chali, stabbing the neck 10 times. Bulwag just had to bring up his hammer, letting it fall to crush the knight's head into his torso. It happened quickly as Darkoda looked at his final knight, wishing him to do something. The knight screams as the land shakes, as Gardner kicks the knight into the atmosphere, blowing like a firework. Darkoda was now alone, staring at Calcanus and Juno while Moore crushes the chains off. He then sees the horde of beasts that look down at him as he shakes in his boots. "You can't do this to me. I am the commanding officer of the Leonis Kingdom, you mongrels." Darkoda hides behind his pride as Lin rushes to hug Juno. "Juno," she hangs on Juno, holding tight as she snuggles her cheek on her. Moore tore some cloth off the wagon, giving it to Juno to wear. She tapped on her back, then felt herself tilt as Ramai lifted them both in a hug. They both stared daggers at the hunter as he avoided their gaze. Then the white and black rose noticed that Darkoda was pleading for his life, asking them to help. "Listen here, Calcanus and wife. If you let me go, then your past transgressions will be forgiven," Darkoda said, as if he was living in his own world. The Misfits looked at at the duo confused, as they had only been gone for a night. Juno blushes and looks at the ground as she has nothing to say. Tarball leans on the wagon's opening, looking at the cowarding Darkoda. "What should we do, Calcanus?" Tarball asked the hunter, as some of the Lyconians and Chili laughed at his feminine name. Calcanus ignored the rest as he looked at Chili with daggers. She looks back with fire in her eyes, smiling as she wags her tail. "What, see something you like?" She taunted him, waiting for him to start a fight. He ignored her, then looked at Darkoda to decide his fate. Then the group noticed the large horde of ghouls scooping out the party, keeping their distance because of Gardner. "We could always put him out of his misery or dispense triangle justice," Calcanus said, as Darkoda started to chatter his teeth. Juno went to fish off her bag from one of the dead knights, forgetting she had Finn's pistol. She pulls it out, seeing that it's loaded with his final shot. She walks to Calcanus and offers it to him. "You could decide if you give him mercy." Juno wants Calcanus to take the pistol, but he pushes it back to her. She flicks her ears as he shakes his head, surprising the Misfits with his intentions. "He planned to kill you and left you naked at the start of winter. If someone is to show him mercy, it is you." Calcanus takes a step back as he ignores Darkoda. The group gives her some space with the man. Gardner was finger-picking distance anyway. Juno looks at the loaded dueling pistol, wrapping her delicate hands around the handle and trigger. She flicked her ears as Darkoda started talking. She found his voice irritating. "Please, just let me go. Show your humanity," he said without shame, making Juno squint at the pleading man. He wasn't entirely at fault for killing all the people of the refugee camp, yet he happily contributed. Now she was human, not a beast for him to take pleasure in her torment. "Kill or be killed, Squishy. Either choice would make me proud." Sickli voiced his opinion, yet she had already decided. "Welcome to the triangle, Mr. Darkoda," Juno said. Bang! The group heard the pistol fire as they all huddled at her. The barrel was smoking, pointed upward to make the man flinch. He reaches to thank the rabbit, as he thought she spared him, until he saw her eyes. She had the eyes of a killer, with no remorse within her to pity his coming death. He realized that the little rabbit didn't save him, he was her prey. "Dinner time," Juno said as she walked away from the man, having Sickli laugh with pride. Bullwag and Goodboy steered the wagon in the opposite direction, with Lynn offering her a ride with the crew. Juno takes a hold as they hear the commotion in the back. "No, who dares you animals leave me here? Stay away from me, you beast," Darkoda said as the horde of ghouls circled around the corpses. They didn't have to fear anymore. What is one human going to do? They rushed at him as he could produce one spell before they dug into his skin. Screams echoed from the back of them as the sight of the ghouls feasting on him alive became smaller and smaller. The Misfits, Tarball, and Demona watch in silence as the ghouls have their meal, both with disgust and satisfaction. Juno focuses on a different picture between the proud infenrials and orcs. She sees Calcanus slowing his steps as the sound of flesh ripping from the dead not far away. His eyes went blank, yet that wasn't what he had in his mind. She figured his quirk. He feels like he doesn't belong in this group. Too much bad blood between the parties. He failed his mission, being the other half that knows that the demon queen will rise in the future. Why does he get to live when many innocents died? It was slow in her mind, yet he wasn't trying to keep up with the group. He plans to die, like he wanted this whole journey before they met in the rabbit hole. He was never going to complete his quest. He may in fact have wanted to reason with Ozma. The brand that he had was a curse. He would never go back to the human lands if the tales were true. So why was he walking? Why was he returning to a land that wants him dead? So his head slowly turns back, almost embracing oblivion. Hey, Calcanus, there is an extra seat next to me. Juno told Calcanus as the man turned his head back with shock. The Misfits tabbed on her legs, wondering where all this friendly nature was coming from. Tarball noticed that Calcanus was shocked, smiling as he saw another layer of him. Nah, I'm sure I would make the trip longer for you, Misfits. Calcanus made excuses, but Juno insisted. It wouldn't bother me. Juno insisted, making Calcanus shake his head. Juno, He looked down at the ground, wanting to taste the relief of death. You saved me, Cal. It's my turn to save you. Juno said as she looked into his emerald eyes, pleading with him to grab on. He saw her like she knew. She knew what he was planning to do. That's when the people in the wagon were shocked by what averted their attention. Is that man crying? Lynn asked Juno, as Calcanus let a tear flow down his cheek. They noticed before he did, which made him panic, wiping it away. He cries like a female. Julie commented, averting her eyes from their business. She rubbed her bandages, as Lynn smiled at how tame she was being. Like you said to Calcanus, this wagon has nothing but misfits. Juno finished, as Calcanus sighed and grabbed her hand, making sure he did the work. She tried to pull him in, yet all she did was grunt from his weight. She gave him room as he looked out into the distance. Thank you, Calcanus said quietly, only loud enough for her ears to pick up. Scene, ominous voice epilogue. She did well, husband. My little rabbit made it to the end of the tale. The woman's voice said, echoing as if her words could reach the end of time. She had ventured well, my wife. Even the soothsayers have no idea. The male voice said, the one that the ancients heard when all of creation was made. We gave them too many liberties. We weren't ready for the next demon kings. The female voice said with anger, directed at their children. Without the omens, the life of Orion would be predictable, my queen. The male voice said, as the female laughed in satisfaction. Spending eternity with you has never bored me, even with you scheming in the background. The female said, as if she was checking on her husband. Tales are interesting, even when I don't know the end. the husband said to his wife, as she agreed with him with a noise. So is that why you're bringing the purist and the high evolutionary on the board? The female asked her husband. We should let the omen's chosen demon king evolve. There are still many tales they could get into. The male told his wife with excitement. Should we follow the Lyconian this time? The wife asked her husband. She doesn't know it yet. She will have to prove herself in an upcoming trial. The husband told his wife as she clapped with excitement. Trials, the wife was confused, yet intrigued. Of course, why let the omens choose a tyrant when we can do it ourselves? The husband said while he watched a Lyconian from a distance. Call upon my son, he has work to do. The wife told an invisible blur who summoned a bolt of lightning to them. A silhouette spawns in the middle of nothingness, bowing to his mother and father. Hello, Lord and Lady. May I ask what is needed of me? The silhouette asked his parents with politeness. Please let this Lyconian's adventures be recorded for the archives. We must show the omens what true chaos can bring. The Lady of Chaos asked her son. As you wish, mother. I'll make sure to leave some interesting diversions for the mutt. The figure said with a smile.